All right, let's see. Are we online here? I am online. I am good. Welcome to another live stream. It's Pastor Dwayne here. So today, this is just kind of like an off time kind of live stream. I've just been thinking about this textual variant in Matthew 23:14 for the last week or so, and I was thinking about how could this possibly happen? How could this happen? And so this live stream is a result of staying up and losing sleep over whether or not this passage should be in the script. No, okay, it's not that intense, but anyway, so I just been thinking about it, and I just thought of something interesting, and I'm not sure if anyone has kind of thought through entirely how this potential variant may have accidentally occurred. So I'm going to share it, and if somebody has already thought of it, feel free to leave the references in there. And if you think it's a really, really dumb idea, then go ahead and tell me that as well. So who do we got in the chat here? I see Mr. Gnomed, Get Gnomed. He is in there. He says, hello, everyone. And Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel. I think I just clicked on your link one day and saw some of your stuff. So that's pretty cool. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the passages in question. So again, we're coming back to Matthew 23. I know I'm probably hitting this one over the head. It's like beating a dead horse or something like that. I don't know what the sayings are. But if you take a look here with me, let me flip this over, and then you can all see with me. There we go. Perfect. You know, I'm gonna bump this over just a little bit. There we go. Because these are just too big. Okay. Tabby Lynn, how are you doing? Is that you, Tabby? I'm going to laugh if that's you, Tabby, because it's not quite your stuff here. All right. I'm waiting for you to put that in the comments there. All right. I have a sister named Tabitha. So if I don't think that's you. I can't see the thing on there, but I've never seen you have a YouTube if that's you. It's probably not you. Anyway. All right. So these are the passages we're going to be talking about here. So this is Matthew chapter 23. And it's verses 13. And it's actually technically verse 14. That's the one in question here, right? Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. Therefore you will receive greater condemnation. Now, if you have been on the last if you've been on the last live stream and saw the last little cut-ups I did, you would know that this one is potentially one that is not part of Scripture, at least in the modern English Bible translations. This one passage, they tend to take, okay, Tabby, you have the same middle name as her. It's really crazy. Okay, that's good. Anyway, so this verse is not in our modern translation. So again, if you've been watching the content, you know that. You know it's not there. So it's also interesting because it's not necessarily verse 14, right? Because what happens is you have three kind of options here. One is it'll have this verse in the Textus Receptus, it's at verse 14. In the Byzantine Textform, it's at verse 13, and so they kind of do a swap here. And then in the critical text, it's just missing altogether. So if you take a look at Metzger's commentary, we'll pull this up again just as like a little reminder of what they're saying here. So in verse 13, he's referencing verse 14. So again, it's that onesie-twosie with verse 13 and 14, but he's talking about this specific verse. And it's he says that verse 14 is an interpolation derived from the parallel in Mark 12:40 or Luke 20:47 is clear. A, from its absence in the earliest and best authorities of the Alexandrian, the Western, and the Caesarean types of text, and B, from the fact that the witnesses which include the passage have it in different places, either after verse 13 in the Textus Receptus or before verse 13. Now, part of what I've been thinking about here is specifically Metzger's not excuse, his explanation, right? So he takes A and B, that it's not in what he considers to be the oldest and best, and B, the fact that it appears in two different places. He takes those together and he says, well, then it's probably not original, and I'm going to explain it by saying it's a harmonization with Mark chapter 12, verse 40, and Luke 20:47. So again, if you were in the last live stream, you would have saw that they were very similar. Very similar. Not exactly the same, but very similar. Okay. So with that recap done, let me just pop over to the comments because everybody's saying hello. All right. Yeah, I know, Tabby. That's crazy. We call my sister Tabby and she doesn't like it. She didn't like it for a period. I think she's okay with it now, but it's Tabitha, right? I'm sure if you run around in Christian circles that you're aware that we were justifiably, maybe not justifiably, but scripturally calling my sister Dorcas, and she didn't like that. So, did your friends do that to you? Do you have that passage in Acts come up? Anyway, so let's take a look at some of these comments here. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak says Mark 12:40 and 20:47, but without the woe. That's right, but without the woe. And that's actually important, because if you're gonna harmonize something, you're going to include that, because the ue, right? That's how you say it in Greek, ue. It's all vowels. It's really interesting. But if you're going to harmonize it, right, that's kind of like one of the most important parts of that sentence, right? Anyway, I don't necessarily think I think harmonization is like it's an explanation, but not the greatest explanation. Mr. Moreno, it's fine whether it's there or not. I'll still number the woes so that they come out to 7. I'm sure you will. Yes, we had that discussion last time. Get gnomed. I missed 4 minutes of the stream. You did. We just reviewed some of the stuff that's going on there. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak. Oldest equals best equals fallacy. Very good. That's like a t-shirt. We should make a t-shirt that says oldest equals best equals fallacy. All right. You know what the counter would be, though? The counter would be like majority equals fallacy. That's okay. Hi, y'all. Hi, Dwayne. How's it going, Mr. Gnomed? I did finally get that Discord server up and running. You should see the link at the very bottom of that scrolling feed. I'll probably put it in the description later once the live stream is done. So come check us out. We're just getting started there. We got a number of people in there already. It's going really well. Kind of, sort of, because I don't really know how to run a Discord server. We're just kind of figuring it out as we go. That's like the motto of life, right? All right, Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak. I tend to think of Tabby as a cat. Yes, it's a tabby cat. All right, Tabby Lynn. My grandfather did that when I was little, Dorcas. It wasn't until I was a little older that I realized what he was saying. I thought he was being mean when I was young. Well, let me tell you something. We were being mean to our sister when we were young. Yes. Okay. If you saw everyone else running off a bridge, right? Yes. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak. Neither oldest nor best in the case of Sinaiticus. LOL. Yeah. Neither oldest. I would like to do a little bit more on Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, because they are esteemed so highly. I'm genuinely curious as to why the textual community esteems them so highly. It's got to be more than simply just age, and I would be curious to see the result there. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak says, I tend to, you know what? We can go like this, and you can see me, what I'm reading here. There we go. It says, I tend to think a lot of the time the scholars are completely wrong on this. It's more likely for someone to miss a line or two by slip of the eye than for them to add stuff in from elsewhere. Yeah, and part of the explanation that just doesn't make sense to me is, why would a scribe put that there? Whoa, what in his mind? Like, I understand it's a list of pronouncement of woes. Is the scribe like thinking of collecting all the woes from everywhere and putting them in, or did something else happen? And I think I have an idea that something else is going to happen. And then Ross, how's it going, Mr. Ross? Silver Springs, Maryland here. Just ended our Monday evening phone in prayer meeting. Awesome. All right. Okay, let's go back. What do we have going on here? We'll click the button. Boop. We come back to what Metzger said, Gospel Harmonization. Not satisfied with that. I'd be curious to see how many textual critics today would be satisfied in this answer. Maybe if they look at A and B, that it's absent from the best authorities from the various families, and that it's in 2 different locations, if they would see that and say, okay, yeah, we probably agree with that. That would be my guess. But I don't know. I'd have to talk to one of them. All right. So here's our passage, and it's very important to recognize that it's not just a single passage that we're talking about. I don't think we can take this one verse in isolation of the variant. Now, yes, this is the variant. 14. But you got to understand that what we are in that section in Matthew chapter 23 where he's pronouncing a number of woes. And it's depending on how you interpret it, whether it's 7 or 8, or depending on whether you think it's a removal, it'll be 7, even though NASB 28 says 8 woes, and then they put it anyway. So I'll just read these really quickly here. It says, and whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Then he says, this is Jesus, but woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for you neither go in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Verse 14, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers, therefore you will receive a greater condemnation. This is the one in question. Hey, I got a footnote here. Yeah, and you text omits the verse. 23 verse 15, woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel land and sea to win one proselyte, and when he is won, you make him twice as much the son of hell as yourself. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple, it is nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the temple, he is obliged to perform it, and so on and so forth. So now this is where it gets interesting, because part of my theory of what potentially happened, and this is, building upon the work of James Snap Jr. and suggesting the parablepsis, right? That is to skip over a bunch of stuff when you're copying, and the homoarctone, which Jeff Riddle talks a little bit about. What's interesting here is when you see, but woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. Okay, notice that it's the same as the next bunch of verses. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel land and sea to win. Woe to you, right? So all these are the same. And this is part of what I think is happening here. Now, I have taken a little bit of liberty here, and I copied this out. Let me see if I can zoom in, make it a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. Now we need to see the whole thing. So I copied out verse 13, 14, and 15 in Greek. Okay, just so you can get an idea generally of what happened. We'll walk through this together. I wonder if I can minimize this here. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so this is our passage in Greek. Now, I am not going to read it in Greek because I'm going to guess most of you wouldn't understand it. It would just be a waste of time. Okay. So anyway, so this is what it looks like in our printed Greek editions. Okay. So we have an uppercase letter starting a sentence, and then we have lowercase letters where it's necessary. We've got all these different diacritics, right? We got all those little things at the top there, and all these little squiggly marks and everything like that, rough breathings, all these things. Okay, this comes with our printed editions of the Greek New Testament. So when the scribes copied these out, they didn't have those. They did not have those little diacritics. That's what we call them. They didn't have them. They didn't deal with them. Those didn't come until much later, probably around the 9th, 10th century. Now, I think there were a few here and there amongst the uncials, but for the most part, they didn't exist. Like punctuation, like this guy here, right? These punctuations, let me see if I can, yeah, there we go. These punctuations didn't exist, or at least were very rare. Let me come back up here. They were very rare. So now here's the other key to understanding this is, remember when I was saying verse 14 and 13 that they were kind of swapped around. So the Textus Receptus has the bit about widows' houses right here. Okay, at verse 14. Let me just I'll highlight that. So I have a new tablet computer, a Microsoft Surface, and I want to use it to be able to mark stuff up with a pen and stuff. It'll make this kind of stuff so much easier. I just haven't figured out how to connect it all to the studio computer. But anyway, so this is the one, verse 14 is the one in question, and this is a TR rendering. So the Textus Receptus renders this passage here at verse 14, but in the Byzantine Textform, which I would take as likely original, is got this at verse 13, and verse 13 is down where verse 14 is. Okay, so just a heads up, that's what's happening there. Now, in order to make this easy to see and easy to understand, I have taken all these letters and I have removed the diacritics and I have put everything into all capital letters so you can just kind of see what it looks like. This is not quite what a scribe would be looking at when he's copying it, but it's getting pretty close, okay? I mean, minus the fact that this is computer generated, okay? So this is getting pretty close. Now, of course, there are no verse numbers in the biblical manuscripts, and they would be looking at something much closer to this. So you can see already that it's significantly changed. I mean, the letters are the same. They're just all capital letters, and all the diacritics have been removed. So this is closer to what it looks like. Now, I have taken the liberty, again, to take all the numbers out. So you get something like this. So I've taken all the paragraphs out, and it's just a running text now, and it begins to look like this. And you can imagine that a scribe who's been copying all day has been looking at this kind of stuff all day, and maybe toward the end of the day he's getting tired, and something's going to happen. And then I have done one more further thing to emulate what a scribe would actually have been looking at. You take all the spaces out, and you end up with something like this. So this is how a scribe would be reading and how he would be writing his manuscripts out. No spaces, no diacritics, no punctuation, no paragraphs, nothing like that. He would just write it out line upon line, letter upon letter. So that's what the scribe is looking at. So when you see that, it becomes a little more understandable as to why a scribe might make a mistake, right? I mean, you try to do that. Do that with an English text. Just take take your English Bible, put all the letters in all caps and put it next together, just like we have here, and try to copy that out. I guarantee you're going to make mistakes, okay? And you're not even a professional scribe, okay? You're not a professional scribe. You're going to make more mistakes, but even professional scribes are making mistakes here. So now, how do we turn this into what's happening? We'll get to that in a second. Let's take a look at the comments. All right. Coming over to the comments. Where are we here? There we go. All right. If you saw everyone else running off a bridge, okay, we were there. Neither oldest nor best. Awesome. All right, Ross, Silver Springs, Maryland here. He says, I trust Robinson, Pierpont, and Pickering. Yes, the RP and the Pickering text are very good, in my opinion. They're super close, pretty close to each other. We got Mr. Moreno says, I would think that it would be the result of assembling the readings for electionary. You know what? It could very well be. I wasn't particularly thinking about the lectionary stuff, but I would be curious though as to why a lectionary would need something like that to be added. I don't necessarily. I mean, maybe removing it because it falls on some other reading day, which is more convenient. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak. I think Sinaiticus is probably genuine, but I also think it's irrelevant. Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced that Sinaiticus is a forgery. I know a lot, especially in the King James camp, tend to think it is a forgery. But some of the evidences that I've seen, so for example, someone would say something like, well, there's different various shades of color amongst all the different images to show that it's not the same paper. But as someone who's worked with a camera time and time again, it's very difficult sometimes to reproduce certain lighting conditions, and that could easily account for something like that. Like it's just the most plausible explanation. And I'm sure there's other reasons, but yeah, I'm not entirely convinced. I also don't believe the Alexandrian text type actually exists. Yeah, and I think modern textual criticism is kind of moving in that direction as well. So Mr. Moreno, the eighth woe is silent in the NA 28. That may be worth something looking at. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak, the answer is simple. They may have had a manuscript with the verses reversed and jumped from one woe to you scribe and Pharisees hypocrite to the other. Potentially. And I think that's kind of where I'm going with this, with a little bit of a caveat. So I actually have a copy of Robinson Pierpont. Yeah, I got one back here somewhere. I have the 2005 with all the marginal readings in there. Get gnomed. Does the Hodges-Farstad majority text and the Robinson-Pierpont majority text differ much? Not a whole lot. I think where they're going to differ the most, I actually had a count done, and I think from Matthew all the way to the end of Jude, it was something like just under 400 textual variants, which is tiny. That's tiny. Of course, once you get into the pericope adulterae and the book of Revelation, then they tend to diverge a little bit more. Probably not. NKJV's M is Hodges Farstead. That's right. Mr. Moreno, get gnomed. They do a bit in the pericope adulterae. Yes, exactly. And then Revelation's a mess. Yes, it is. Yes, my RP is 2005. Nice. Yeah, they stopped printing those, so hang on to it because there are no more. Yeah, we're still working on the Byzantine 2024-5 now. I think it's going to be 2025. We'll see. We're working on it. Okay, so let's come back to this here. So I want to flip my screenshot over. See what is going on here. There we go. Okay, so here is here's the passage. Let's see if I can do this. I got my RP from Pastor Brett. Oh, nice. I'm surprised Pastor Brett's not on here. He caught the last one. All right, so here's the passage. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to highlight where they begin and end in this. So we're looking for Evkomeni dia tuto lipsiste perisoteron crema. Okay, so there's the first verse. Now I'm going to highlight that in yellow. Okay, that's the first verse. And then the second verse is right here. Okay, this is the mean gravitine. Kalite tin Vasilion ton uranon. Shut up the kingdom of heaven. Oh, I swapped these around. This is the shut up the kingdom of heaven. So the reason why I swapped them here is because I think the Byzantine text is got the right order here over the Textus Receptus. Just given that I'm a Byzantine priorist, right? So in order for this to work, we need to see it in its Byzantine order. So we come here. So there's the second verse. Can I highlight this a different color? Yeah, I can. Perfect. It's gonna hurt your eyes. And then here's the third verse. So I'll highlight that a different color. Let's do blue. Okay. So very bright. Maybe it's not that hard to read if you are fluent in the language, but it does pose a bigger problem to readers today for certain. Yes, you are absolutely right. And I'm surprised I was able to read all that. Good. Okay. So this is what you got to imagine that's happening. So just pretend for a second that I'm a scribe. Actually, before we do that, what I want to do is kind of underline the bits of this text that are really important. So ue, they. So this is important because it shows a little bit of discontinuity with the rest of the text. Okay. So if there's going to be anything mixed up, it's not going to be because of ue mean. Okay. It's not going to be that because the day is interrupting them, which is interesting because if you look at how they change the order of these two passages of verse 13 and 14, right? Remember how I was saying the Textus Receptus has it at verse 14 and the Byzantine has it at verse 13 or vice versa. This ue de, which is but woe, right? It is post-positive. The post-positive is always at verse 13. So when this passage gets put into this spot, they insert the de, okay? And then when this passage here gets moved down to the second spot, the de gets removed. Because whoever's copying it understands that this is the beginning of a paragraph, right? And that's essentially what they is. It's complicated, but for the sake of our conversation, we're just going to say that they is equivalent to the beginning of a paragraph. So whoever's copying this knows that. So that's important to recognize. Now, what the other pattern to recognize here is this: Himin, grammatis, ke, pharisei. This is to you, scribes and Pharisees. Hypocrite, hypocrites, hoti, ke. Okay, that's important. Now I am going to underline this. Can I underline that? Yeah, I'm going to underline that. Let's take the underlying off day. We don't need to do that. So this phrase here is exactly, letter by letter the same when you come down to here. Okay, himin, grammatis, ke, pharisei, hypocrite, hoti, ke. Let's underline that. And just to prove the point, I'm going to copy the yellow one down here. Let's do it down here. Okay, there's the yellow one, and then the green one from the second verse. Okay, and you can see, right, they are, let's go like this. There we go. You can see that they are exactly the same, letter by letter. Biblical manuscripts, they are letter by letter the same. So here's what's happening. Okay, so here's what's happening. So this would make sense for the omission of the text if verse 14. Let me just think. Let me just think this through here. Let's see if I can recall what I was thinking about the other day. So the scribe copies. Now he's in the Byzantine text, right? So the Byzantine text has this at verse 13. This is the one about the widow's house. So he's copy. He copies all of this here, all of this. For some reason, he looks, or maybe he's looking over to his scribe, over to his manuscript to get the next bit of text. And what he does when he returns his eyes back to the page to continue copying, he accidentally skips over all of this. Can I strike this out? He skips over all of this. I can. He skips over that. Okay. And then he continues copying here. Or when he looks back at the other manuscript, he begins to copy it here. And so what that results in is a manuscript that does not contain that reading. And so what we get is verse 14 gone. And it just makes perfect sense, and it just flows like everything is okay. And then the scribe goes on and doesn't realize a thing, and so he keeps copying and keeps copying. And so that makes sense for why we have manuscripts that don't contain this passage, right? That just don't contain it, because maybe somebody at the very, very, near the first century, second century, made this mistake and read past the whole thing. Now, alternatively, the previous verse was used as a direct model for the lead into the transposed material. Yes. Now, possibly, but what doesn't make sense is when you look in the manuscript tradition. Hang on here. There we go. So what doesn't make sense is when you look at the manuscript tradition, or what needs to be made sense of, is why does this work in two different locations? Why do we have this in two different locations? Well, so what happens is perhaps a scribe comes along, does the same mistake that we're talking about, copies this, and parablepsis, right, looks past the line into the next bit that looks the same. I totally missed that. Yeah. There it is. There we go. That's right. Past the bit that looks the same. Goes, oh no, I totally missed that. And so instead of getting out his eraser and erasing that so that he can put the verse in, what he does is he comes down here and then he includes it right there. And it continues on as it was. Now I am making a total mess of this. Now what I should do is, can I do that in English? It'll probably be better to do it in English because then everyone can see what's going on. Let me just grab. But it doesn't work in English because the words are different. The words are different. Well, I guess they're the same. So if we did, y'all are with me on this one. Let me grab. We'll just cut and paste because it's so much easier. Let's do these ones here. Oh, that's gross. There's got to be a better place to get it. Let's try Bible Hub. This is me. This is what happens when you just do a live stream off the cuff. I'm still likely going to do my live stream a little later in the week. I do want to take a look at, I think it's Mark 7:14. He who has an ear, let him hear. We will be taking a look at that. Let's do Bible Hub. All right, Mr. Moreno says, alternatively, the previous verse was used as a direct model for the lead-in to the transposed material. Possibly. RobCat82, how are you doing? I'm just looking at something really quickly here. I did it all in Greek, and I really should have just did it in English because it's going to make a lot more sense to everybody and myself as I sort through it. I do know some Greek, but I am just not that fluent. Truth be told, I'm not really fluent. I work my way through text. That's what I do. 23. This is KJV. Is this KJV? Yes, it is. Box of KD. Nice. There we go. Oh no. Okay, let's copy this. We'll do our transforms and such. I'm going to go 13, 14, and 15. Actually, let's bring in verse 12. Let's bring in verse 12. There we go. Now, if I come over here, let's, you know what, let's go down to the next page. Insert page break. And we will go like this. And font. Let's do all caps. There we go. Perfect. Take out the verse numbers. Let's go like this just so we can see what is going on here. There we go. And we don't really care about verse 15. Okay, so let's take the verse numbers out. And we will go like this. Oh, what's your problem there? That's funny. All right. So this is the King James Version. So if we take this guy out, and we're going to move him just to reflect the Byzantine text. And then if we go like this, I don't know how to quickly take, whoop. There we go. This is what I wanted to do beforehand, just so that people wouldn't have to wait while I'm doing this. Because I have to admit that this is probably really boring to watch. Seeing the KJV in all caps gives me horrible flashbacks. Really? Was he choosing to do all that in all caps? Oh. Oh. There we go. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this, but I'm too tired to try and figure that out. Okay, we're almost there. See, what's nice is when I'm done with this, I can take this and edit all of this extemporaneous stuff and come up with a video that's significantly shorter, and then gets the point across. But the nice thing about the live streams is I get to interact with all of you guys. So while you're on there talking to me, gives me a chance to say hello and all these things. Scribal error, you deleted the D and exalted. Really? Let's see. Exalt. I did. There we go. Let's put it back in. There we go. It's going to see the whole thing as a big long spelling error. This is what happens when you choose to use Microsoft products. Okay, we're almost done. All right. There. Oh. Whoop. Da, 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 da. See, this is all the setup you do beforehand. Did you say Mark 7:14 is the next text you were examining? I think it's 7:14. It's Mark 7 something. I might have gotten that wrong. I'm sure no expert, but the uncials seem easier to read than minuscules with ligatures. Yeah, I still struggle to read the minuscules. it can be done. Like even something like, who is it? Stephanus, or some of the early printed editions of the TR. I still find those relatively difficult to read. Again, I can work my way through them. It takes a little more effort. I find the unsealed manuscripts are a lot easier to read, and probably for that very reason. It's like what you expect one letter to be in minuscule script is not that one letter. So you really have to have a very strong knowledge of not only the Greek language, but also of all these different ligatures and stuff that they use. Okay, we're almost there. Almost there. There we go. All right. We did it. We did it. Yeah, I have a facsimile of Erasmus's Novum Instrumentum. I can read the Latin well enough, but the Greek, yeah, because I don't know. I don't know. Does the Latin doesn't have all those ligatures and stuff? Do they? They would probably have some, but they probably didn't go through a minuscule type font like the Greek did. Probably not. Okay. Anyway. So here we are. Here we are in English. Okay. Now I have swapped the order from the TR to the Byzantine order. So the first woe listed here, this would be the second woe, and the second woe would be the first woe in the Textus Receptus. So this is showing the Byzantine text. Now the one that we have kind of an issue with as to whether or not it's original or not is this one here. It's what I consider to be the first woe. So it would be, but woe unto you. So let's move that. Okay, because as in Greek, that's what we see. We'll highlight that yellow. There we go. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. So now again, you got to think that the scribe has this in front of him, and he has a blank page, and he's copying stuff down. So he comes to this. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites, for you... Oh, hey, look at that. I made another mistake. See, I can't even do it. For you devour widows' houses. There we go. Oh, Microsoft Word. Okay, there we go. For you devour widows' houses, and for pretense make long prayers. Now, so what we're interested in is this. Not but woe, all right? We want unto you, because but woe, that's changed orders from the second woe in Greek. It's unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you, okay? Let's bold that. So the scribe is copies this down, looks back over at his manuscript to get the next one. And when he looks over, what he does is he skips past all of this. And then he goes, woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites, for you. There we go. So he skips past all of this, and he goes to here. So let me just do a strikeout. Font. Strikeout. Double strikeout. Yeah, that's more fun. There we go. So all of that. Oh, what's going on here? This is not working out how I expected. Woe unto you, scribe. Oh, this is what's going on. Okay, so he's... Okay, I don't like what's happening here. There we go. Maybe if I do this. There we go. For you. Okay, so we strike that out. So he skips past all of this. Font. Okay, I need a better way to do this, clearly. So we strike that out. So he skips past all of this. He skips past all of it. Every last little bit. So we go, boop, gone. And he goes, because you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. And then, of course, this makes sense as to why the passage is gone entirely. Why we have a number of manuscripts that don't have it. So then we have another bunch of manuscripts, right, in that the TR tradition takes, and I'm not sure what the numbers are. I just took a quick glance at how many manuscripts had it at verse 14 versus verse 13, and the numbers seemed somewhat similar. So what happens then is, I think what could have happened is the scribe finished up putting in the woe, comes unto this woe here, and goes, oh, I made a big mistake. I I missed that one woe. And so what would normally happen is you could cross this out and then put the right woe in and then continue copying as you're doing. But is he going to do that? No, it's just a lot easier to just go back and put the other woe pronouncement in. And so he puts the woe in there. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites, for you, boop, I keep missing that, devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer, therefore ye shall receive the greater condemnation. And then woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites, for you encompass the land, make make one proselyte, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell. So I hope that was clear. I had some real trouble trying to get that explained. I don't know what was going on there, but I hope that makes sense. So you can see how when you look at the reading, which is devouring the widow's houses as initially being found as the first reading, the first woe, and then the second woe being the bit about shutting up the kingdom of heaven, it kind of makes sense. Again, let me just see if I can explain that a little better here. So again, this is the woe pronouncement on the widow's house, and this is the woe pronouncement on those who shut up the kingdom of heaven, right? Again, the Textus Receptus has this as the second woe, and then the second woe is actually as the first woe in the Textus Receptus. But to make this easier, yes, I'm explaining this again because I'm going to cut it all up and make it better. So it would be easier to just flip them over and show the Byzantine order, because I think the Byzantine text is original here, and this is why. So you can take a scribe, and you take a look at what the scribe is doing. Remember, he's copying this long string of text, which is, no spaces, no punctuation, no diacritic markings, nothing like that. We just made it look like a scribe who would, what a scribe would see and what he would be copying. So what we've done is we've bolded the section here, which is the same. Unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you, and then it goes on to say, devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make prayer. And then we have again, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you. Well, we got to put, I don't know how that got. You see how easy it is? You see how easy it is? But yeah, so unto you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites, for you, and we'll bold those. So these are the two bits that are really important, because as the scribe is copying, so say he starts copying, but woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you, and then he stops there. He looks over at the other manuscript, and when he looks over at the other manuscript, he skips past all of this, and all of this, because they all look the same, homoarctone, and then he picks it back up. Let me see if I can, there we go. We'll cross that out. There we go. So he picks that back up right here. For you, why is there an E there? Shut up the kingdom of heaven. So you see how that comes, because it's exactly the same, skipping everything out and continuing the verse. Now that makes sense for why certain passages might not have this verse. That makes sense as to why, we have a number of manuscripts that don't contain this bit about the widow's houses. Now, where it gets interesting is, what could a scribe have done? What makes sense of having them both there and in the alternate order? Well, you see what happens is, after the scribe comes through, copies all of this stuff up, realizes that he missed the first woe, what does he do? Well, he could come in here and he could erase all of this and then recopy the first woe down. But it's going to be really difficult to do that. One is, he would have to cross it out. And what's the point of crossing it out if you're just going to rewrite it again? The other thing is, he could get his eraser out and he could erase it and then copy over it. But you got to understand that it's not like you can just take an eraser and erase over a manuscript. You literally got to scrape away the top layer of the manuscript. If this is on papyri, I don't know what it's like to scrape away stuff on papyri. But if it's that early, then that's not going to happen either. So what is most likely to happen, if the scribe notices that he missed the first woe, he's going to go, oh, shoot. And what's he going to do? Well, he's going to copy it in. So he's going to take this passage here, Yeah, he's going to take this passage here. But woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. And he's going to copy that right. Where is it? There we go. He's going to take that out and put it right here. Then you get, wait a second here. So humble himself, but woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrite. So he pops all this out. Well, this is a lot harder to do than I thought it would be. So he cuts this out, and then he inserts after the next woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, from the 3rd verse, for ye. That's where I'm in the King James Version. Okay, I'm getting all messed up here. That's okay. Let's go like this. So what he does is after that, he inserts this passage here, and he puts that right here. And then you get the reading. Oh, excuse me. All right. Okay, this is a lot harder. This is a lot harder. I'm going to have to clean this up and present this a little better, because this is actually very difficult, I'm finding, to roll through. So I'm going to leave it there. I wasn't anticipating that I was going to have that kind of trouble trying to set that up. So it's all working in my head. You can see how it goes. I'll clean this up and probably represent it later and make a stronger, better video on how this works. Because I got it in my head. I'm just having trouble getting it out, which is rather unusual. But the point is the whole idea about a scribe doing a harmonization, because, well, it's very similar in Mark and Luke, and so we're going to put it here, even though there doesn't really seem to be a very good reason to do that. That's the kind of general understanding of the passage. But then if you take this other thing here with this idea about parablepsis and homoarctone, the beginning readings are the same, and the way that it is potentially removed by the scribe, it seems convoluted. I understand that it seems convoluted, but it really isn't. I just need to explain it better. But you can see that the potential for it being removed and then the scribe having to add it a little bit later because he recognized it being removed, again, is pretty, I would say that it's pretty, it could be pretty convincing that may have happened early on in the church. And that makes sense of both the modern critical text or some of the manuscripts containing no passage there. And it also makes sense of why the two readings are flip-flopped. So the question then comes down to, well, which explanation is better? Now, again, I didn't explain it very well, but nonetheless, again, I'll clean that up and figure a way to explain it a lot better. But the question is which explanation is better? Which explanation is better? Harmonization? Granted, harmonization is a simple way to kind of get away with, it's in Mark and Luke. But the problem is it's also a similar way of explaining why it's in Matthew, right? Because if the synoptic gospels contain it, then Matthew would contain it. Why wouldn't he? So yeah, I mean, why wouldn't he? But then if you take this other way of thinking about it, it just seems to make more sense as an accidental causal slip of whatever it is. So I'm going to leave it at that, because apparently I need to do a little bit more work on this one just to make it a little bit more graspable. I got it in my head. I'm just having a hard time with the technology trying to you know what I mean? So I think we'll leave it there. So let me come on over to the comments and see what's going on here. Get Gnomed, is Dwayne giving admin in the Discord server? Am I making people admins? I probably will at some point, because I don't think I'm going to be able to handle everything that's coming up. Ross Lewichuk, great illustration in English majuscules. Make it more real with some lacunae. Yeah, I could. That's actually interesting. Friendly Neighborhood Jesus Freak says, Good thing I'm used to the KJV, though I do have several NKJVs. One of the Bibles I used for rebinding practice was a New King James Version. Very good. Cool. So you do rebinds. I'd love to see one of your rebinds. You should post some pictures or something. If you join the Discord server, show us some of your work. All right. Ross Luchuk. The Bible is most valuable as the Word of God, yes, but your sessions add to my appreciation of it because of the massive amount of labor, sacrifice, and finances, which allow us to buy an entire Bible. Yes, it is so true. I know that I spend a lot of time on this channel, but I do, obviously, I'm a pastor. I preach on other parts of the Bible, so I study a number of other things, not just textual criticism, but it's just an area that I find rather interesting. Yes, we are definitely blessed. Now, isn't the simplest explanation for everything ancient aliens? Yes, aliens. Not going to say it was aliens, but it was aliens. Not that I'm saying it was aliens, but aliens. Yeah, there you go. All right. Rob Cad 82. Good lesson. I will rewatch. You know what? NKJV is still my go-to. Great. I'm going to say don't rewatch this one. I might actually remove it. Just because my explanation and working with the technology is rather poor. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to re-record this session. I'll script it out. A lot of the stuff I tend to do on the fly just because I can. But I was clearly having some issues. Maybe Word was one of the more poor choices there. So keep an eye out for a release of this. I'll re-release it. With my thoughts a little bit more clearly laid out because that wasn't going well. I can admit that, right? That wasn't going well. Every once in a while we have a video that doesn't go well. I don't think that explanation went well, and I'm not satisfied with it. And I don't think I got my point across as well as I expected to. So yeah, I mean, you can rewatch this if you want. Maybe I'll leave it on. But I think I'll release something that's a little bit more explanative, So I will leave it with that. Oh, I see, Dwayne. No problem. Yeah, no, awesome. Yeah, do what you want. If you need to go back, I'm sure you can still understand some stuff from it. But let me get something a little bit more professional. Is that the word? A little bit better explained. All right. So this is just a short little live stream. This was just kind of like an off the cuff. Just wanted to kind of share what I was thinking about. So do keep an eye out for the Mark 7. You know what? Let me find it. I think it's Mark. I thought it was Mark 7:14. I got this list that I'm looking at. Mark 7:14. Here we go. There it is. Mark 16. Mark 6. There it is. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. So just as kind of like a preview of the next one. So this passage here, let me make that nice and big for everybody to see. There we go. So this one here. There is nothing from without a man that entereth into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile. Oh no, it's too big. There we go. There is nothing from without a man that entereth into him that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. And then it says in verse 16, if any man have ears to hear, let him hear. So this phrase here, if any man have ears to hear, let him hear. This is not in our modern textual critical Bibles. A number of them just skip verse 16 and go right to verse 17. So I want to take a look at that. I mean, just immediately as I look at it, I don't want to say not a big deal because it's the words of Scripture. It's the Word of God. But if this were perhaps for whatever reason not to be Scripture, I don't see it necessarily impacting anything too seriously. Now, maybe I'm missing something. Perhaps I am. But we'll take a closer look at it a little bit later this week and see what we can tell with it. All right. Anyway, guys, I think I will close that out today. And, oh, Mr. Heaven Jones, you missed it. You have to go back and watch it. Had a little trouble explaining what I was trying to say here. So we're going to clear that up. Anyway, I'm going to duck on out of here and keep an eye out for the redo of the video. Yeah, so Heaven, just because you're here, I'm going to tell you. my explanation needs a little work. So I'm going to go back to the drawing boards and see if there's a better way that I can explain where my thinking is on this. All right, so I will leave it at that. Watch at your own risk. Please don't hold it against me. Anyway, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about because you understand periblepsis and homoarctone. So you'll get an idea of what I'm saying, and then I'll clear it up for the next one. Yeah, you could do that too. Save yourself the 45 minutes and a little bit of my embarrassment. All right, guys, I'm going to head on out. We will talk to you later. Keep an eye out. We're going to take a look at Mark 7:16 a little bit later. And until next time, brothers and sisters, we'll see you around.